This is the second part of Akshay's conversation with Aneesh Reddy, founder of Capillary.
That was also personally a time when, I had just turned 35. It was 13 years as a founder, or sorry, 11, 12 years as a founder. Kind of a midlife crisis as well. It's like just in this thing of, hey, has it been too long? What's happening in life, etc. And as a founder, you do gain a lot of baggage, right? I mean, not not more than 20% of what you try will work. Uh, and thankfully, that 20 that worked, covered up for all the other sins that I had over the 11, 12 years. But it's still a lot of baggage, right? And you can get to a place where your mind is just in this very negative place of saying, hey, you messed up at so many places at so many levels. Especially when you take the hard calls on turning the company profitable. That feel like a lot of the money you invested in places in the company, right? Okay, should you have even done that? What a stupid move. Uh, And you have this constant voice in your mind just saying, oh man, what am I up? Right. So luckily for me, what happened was, a bunch of friends, we all went out to Goa for our 35th birthday. I mean, school friends, we've been together since our kindergarten. Yeah. So know each other like very well. Grandparents know each other, parents know each other. A group of nine, actually, pretty large group in that sense. So we all went to Goa and we were just, and people had flown to the US. This was December of 2020, December of 2019. And folks had flown in from the US, from Germany, from various places, right? For that week that we were taking off. Usual stuff. All of us got drunk. We were talking about what's happened with life, and where has life taken us, etc. And here I was, I think I made some kind of statement that I think life is all downhill from here. Uh, and then the guys were like very surprised. He was like, this is a guy who's done so well in life. Uh, and why is he saying this? Ski life is all downhill from here. And I was just mentally in that space. Right. So one of them was, a banker with IFC. He's a venture capitalist. He's a banker with IFC, Karthik. He then said, hey, boss, you're like overthinking this. I think you should just go to a Vipassana. I'd done it 3, 4 years ago when I was, and then it really helped. And this is a group which knows me really well. We've been thickest of friends for ever. And a group where, I don't have to think, the rest of the place, all the world of the stage, right? So took that seriously, found a course in Jan and, usually these things get booked out fairly quickly. Uh, Went to some really small center, Pocharam in Nizamabad, which is some 5 hours away from Hyderabad. Nice center, small place. Had an amazing uh, breakthrough in some senses, right? So it was just, I thought in those 10 days, I cleared up some 12, 15 years of baggage in my head. So it just felt like I felt as clear in my head as when I got out of IIT. No, it was that clean, no baggage. The world again seemed like a land of opportunity, so a little bit of that. Uh, and of course, then I think the reason I'm saying this is it really helped with what happened when COVID hit. Otherwise, when COVID hit, it was like, oh, we spent the last whole year fixing a lot of stuff in the company, moving to large enterprises, you know, uh, getting the P&L in shape, going from a, minus 65, minus 70% EBITDA to a +3, +4 in like 4, 5 quarters. A lot of hard work, right? Like real, real grind across the business. And then, COVID hits and then you're like, it's like our cash flows fell like 80%, you know, and we've had very good customers, folks who always paid us on time, people like Arthur Birla Group, Tata's, etc. But it was also times when their own business shrank to zero, so obviously people prioritize employee costs before vendor costs. And and our cash flows really went to zero, right? Other than some international e-commerce customers, everything else just went to, and so this was March 20th, right? When the lockdowns got announced, and we just cleared diligence. Ernst& Young was doing diligence for this UK fund, this UK debt fund. It was all done, right? So, and the guy, obviously, even for them, it's like, hey, retail tech company, God knows when this is going to come back. And this is debt, right? This is not equity, so the guy obviously started dilly-dallying a bit. And so I think we really had two options at that point in time. One was to see the reading and say, was like, this is not going to happen. The second was to say, no, he's just dilly-dallying. He might come in like, people never say no immediately, right? They'll delay it by 1 week, then delay it by 2 weeks. Then, so finally, it was mid of April that the guy came back saying, hey, sorry, like this just won't happen, just given the macro, all that stuff, right? So, and luckily, or given I had just done the past nothing, I think I had a clean mind, no baggage. And so and so it seemed very apparent because if you have to save the company now with 20% cash flows, 20% cash in the bank, 20% cash flows and probably, 1-2 months of real burn left in the bank, right? I mean, at this 80%, and like, how much ever money, I earlier had money for like 6 months, with some very little burn. Now I have like nothing left, right? Because 80% of my cash flows are vanishing overnight, right? So, yeah, and there were many things playing in the head, like we've been very lucky to have very good employees stay with us for many, many years, right? Of the 150 people who joined us, first 150, about 50 have spent more than 10 years here, right? So, and then you have this choice of saying, look, we have to let these guys go now, right? So, and then of course, there was this thing of saying, look, will you fire people who have worked with you for 10 years in a lockdown, cold shoulder, right? When they just locked up in their own houses and have nowhere to go, right? And there are no jobs. There's nothing placed anywhere. Now, I think it was a very, very testing time, right? In some senses. And I think we took the very hard call. We took the hard call of saying, look, if you don't save the company, then you will have to fire everyone eventually. And so we actually let go, like we cut 70% of cost in like a week, right? And the way we did it was with some very, very hard calls. We decided to let like 33% of the company go. And we, of course, we made sure that the average payout, even though we didn't have money, was like 4 months of severance, and for everyone who had spent a year with us, we had 1 more month each, right? So people had like all the way up to 9-10 months of severance. We put the rest of the teams on a 25% salary cut. I went on a 0, right? So, of course, vendor costs came down, all that stuff. We did exactly what our customers did to us in some senses. But, kind of got to a place where we got costs down to like 33%, right? So, and took some very hard calls of saying we will do this in the lockdown. So, March 27th, I still remember the day was when we, had this massive all hands, asked these 33% of folks to leave. And the idea of doing it early, Akshay, was that you can then go back and get these guys placed before the market really tanks, right? So, we, and so it was, and we took a lot of care. We got we do a lot of work with Yodos. So Yodos was there on every call. We were speaking to employees. They would call the employees up who were being let go like 3 times a week for the next 4-5 weeks to make sure, the script of what we would say was actually drafted by a psychologist that, look, don't use the word redundant, don't use this word, don't use that word. on that, on the very next day, we had a resume building session for everyone. Uh, we then got, it was like a IIT campus placement. We got 102 companies to, there were 250 folks impacted to offer 750 roles. Uh, so everyone I had ever, anyone who had ever called me and said, look, hey, what do I do about this situation? Founders call you, right? I'm struggling with this, tell me. So everyone who had called me, I had made a list. I called them up and said, buddy, like time to return favors now. So luckily that worked out. Out of the 250 people, about 220 got a job within like 2 months. So it really just saved the day. I thought it was I don't think I would have been able to do that if I had not gone to this past thing. I would have just been stuck with this baggage of saying, hey, these guys have been with you for so long. Like, how can you let them go now? How in a lockdown? We would have probably waited for the lockdown to end. By when it should have been too late, right? By when number of, I don't think we would have been able to get those guys placed out. So it was hard, but I thought we kind of took some, and luckily for us at that point in time, I think the investors also stepped up. So I think, in a 2-week period between the three of them, they wired in 5 million. So then I at least had a 1-year runway. With the lower cost, I had a 1-year runway, right? So we went deep enough that you did go to the bone. In fact, the employees who stayed back, right? They had taken deep cuts. We had delayed variables. We had delayed hikes. And for the people who were leaving, they were paid everything, right? Including more than what was legally required severance. So a bunch of folks came back and said, look, like we feel we should have been let go. You treated them better than you treating us. It was just the right thing to do. It was just the right thing to, and luckily, I think the business returned in about 6-8 months. We still degrew that year. That was the first year in the business when we really degrew. We degrew by some 20-25%. We also had to do the right thing for the customers, right? So we actually, without any questions being asked, we gave almost a 4 months off for everyone. For a lot of customers, we move them to, saying, look, we know your cash flow issues, so we'll if our usual payment terms are 60 days, we'll like not follow up till you get to 120, right? So, and then luckily there were a few customers like, the Tata's, Arthur Group, etc., who they could raise debt very quickly, so they also started paying, right? So it was even with vendors, what we did was we paid off all the small vendors very quickly. Because we were also small, so we kind of knew that the struggle would be highest there. The large vendors, we spoke to them and said, hey guys, like you'll have to give us deal on this. So it was and I think we did some things well, which was we went very deep very quickly. What I saw some of the other founders do was try and take this 5% cut every month. Things will improve. They don't improve, and then you take some more. Then you take some more. And as a net result, what happens with the company then is you're in this constant state of shock. So in our case, what happened was we went so deep at the first cut itself, right? 65% down rather than going 25% down, right? So because we went that deep, any news was better than the news I could get. But I'd assume. And that also meant that the day after the cut, for the next 3 weeks, all I did was run a placement share. I was not bothered about what news is coming from the market, none of that stuff. We were just heads on saying, look, it was every day, morning, evening, we converted our recruitment team into this outplacement team. So I don't think I've been involved in hiring as much as I was involved in outplacement. It was that level of, I don't think we would have done that if there was this constant, hey, but what makes what next steps, right? So, yeah. So I think that really, I thought that was a good learning for the company as well. So in fact, what happened was, as things were improving, as we started seeing that lockdowns were lifted in June, we paid variables out in July, right? Instead of paying them out in April. Uh, that was one big boost to the team. Like, okay, right? Things are coming back, right? So in October, we reversed back to normal salaries. In March of the next year, we actually paid out all the arrears also. Whatever we had cut as salary cuts, we paid off, right? So it was a good, I mean, as a team, I think just built that whole thing of saying, look, hey, we fought this one, we could have died. And we saw a bunch of our other partners in retail, like in the startup space, not survive, right? So it was just for the team, it was great muscle memory of saying, hey, I mean, together we got out of this mess, right? We were doing all things every 15 days, there would be an all hands where I would actually show that, look, here's how much we collected in the last 2 days. So this month, here is how much we've actually burned. Here is how much cash is left. That level of transparency. So no one needed to ever guess that, look, kya hone wala hai abhi, right? So you just, and I think that really helped. That really helped as well. But yeah, no. So those were, I thought, really good learnings. But also, what happened with that, Akshay, was again, thanks to the Vipassana, my baggage on the US was gone. Right? I mean, I had this very, obviously, KK moved on after we opened the US. There was this whole, it really tore the company apart, right? So, and so that baggage moved on. We then sat down in May, because I'd done this cleanup properly and we were we spent the whole of May, June when business was low. We got in Psyche from Extra 10X. I don't know if you've heard of Extra 10X, but so they are this, I yeah, they're this McKinsey for startups type thing. They do what's called a business design, and so, we had 2-3 months, no customers. It's like, it was like chilled out. So we got him in saying, look, hey, help us figure what we should do. Right? Obviously now, this 11, 12, 13 years, I feel, we've kind of hit a plateau, right? So we were at retail in Asia was what we were focused on. We kind of hit a plateau there, right? So, and we were growing, but, we were comfortable, but it was not like, uh, the one question I would anyway get asked for everyone is $300 million market. Like you're already 32 million. Like how much more can this grow? And you would obviously give them very, very strong answers. We're doing, we're carrying all that stuff, right? So again, given I didn't have this headache of to deal with what's happening with COVID, right? We went the other way around of actually saying, hey, let's redesign the business. Right. So, and that's when we took some very hard calls of saying no mid-market, no SMB going forward, only large enterprise. Let's get out of retail. I mean, continue with retail, but add other verticals, right? Let's go from Asia to US, given you have some reasonably strong pivots, so, and those have really played out very well, right? When we entered COVID, 90% of revenue was retail. Today it is 55%, right? And we work with the best oil and gas companies like Shell. We work with the best consumer goods companies like Unilever, Nestle, Abbott. We work with some of the best travel and hospitality players. Sabre is a launch partner for us. So a lot of, and because we had all this time now, customers weren't like serious about us for that period. We used that time to really build out for these verticals. So the core 70% of the product was same. You had to change to 25-30%. Every year you pick two and, redo the whole thing. Right? So that kind of work. On the US, one of our employees he got married. He was moving to Canada. So I said, look, continue on the roles, just, sell into the US, right? So we then went and signed up one of the ex-CEOs of one of the largest loyalty companies, of Forrester Wave leader. The guy who had really grown them like 10x and then sold it off and then was kind of like, got him in as an advisor first, one day a week. And that really cut our time into the US very quickly. This was October, November, December 20. We then won a couple of customers in Jan, Feb, March 20. We realized the product will work. And we said, look, okay, we didn't want to spend this 2-3 years getting to 0 to 1 in the US. So I said, let's do a small acquisition where the team is very good. It's the same product or like a much smaller set of the product. So let that team sell, a team who knows how to sell, coupled with, our globally best loyalty platform, let's say, and let's see where this goes, right? So that worked out brilliantly. We bought a company which was like 25 crores, 3.5 million. In a year, given they were now selling our platform, we grew from that 25 crores to like 65 crores, in like 12 months. So, and then very blue chip customers, right? So we like 4 Fortune 100 customers is what we ended up winning. So it was just like so yeah. So the last 24-25 months have been totally the other way of seeing life is downhill, right? So we had a great US story now. We had 2 engines growing. Asia was coming back to grow. US was growing. Our margins were much better because this was large enterprises. Growth was a lot more predictable because large enterprises have more money to spend, right? If they like what you're doing for them, they'll spend more with you. Unlike mid-market SMB where there are always budget constraints. There's always this question of, hey, but you need to give me more, right? So yeah, so the last 2-3 years have been very interesting in that sense. We filed for an IPO, right? So given those numbers, we're probably one of these very rare tech companies which are growing 30-35% plus without actually burning any money. Like our economics is very different. Unlike the most SaaS companies which spend 70% on sales and marketing, we spend like mid-20s and grow mid-30s. People spend 60-70% on sales and marketing and grow mid-30s. We just do so I'm just saving like a big chunk there because half my growth comes from these large enterprises saying, look, hey, we are growing, so you will grow with us. Right. So I mean, some of that worked out very well. I think so. We went and implemented this Vipassana thing for everyone. So, so as an employee, if you like 10 days a year, beyond the usual 22 days of leave and study leave, all that stuff, you can take 10 days off to go to a Vipassana or go to a retreat. And that's beyond your leaves.
What made you think that this will be a sustained, prolonged lockdown? Because, there were examples like, say, there was like the SARS thing, which happened a couple of years back, and swine flu, and all of these, did not affect India at all. And at that stage, most people would have thought that COVID is like that. It'll come and go. So what made you feel that this will be like a sustained thing and you really need to cut deep?
Yeah, so we had a business in China, right? Before China used to be about 5-7% of our revenue. And COVID, if you remember, in China started in like in December, early Jan, right? So it had played out for 3 months in China. And this 80% fall in revenues we already saw in China. Right? So I knew what was coming a little bit, like I had 16 days early view of what was going to happen. And at least seemed कि oh boss, 90 days to ये चलेगा. Right? If something as well run as China, can't contain this damn thing, no chance like India, Indonesia, all these, all the rest of Asia will be able to, right? So you kind of had that view that at least not a 15-day problem. ये minimum, ये 9 महीना चलेगा, ये 3 महीना चलेगा, 4 महीना चलेगा, right? At least. It was not like you were seeing any visible change in China, right? They went into lockdowns, I think, mid of Jan, and it was mid of March, and they were incessant, right? And in spite of that, it seemed like they were still locking cities down, and China lockdowns were unbelievable, right? I mean, at least India, you could go buy grocery, you could do something. It was it was crazy, right? So I thought we had that advantage. The second advantage we really had, Akshay, was, sometimes in life when you don't have options, right? And you have I knew that, look, I had money for, in the new world, I had money for 15 days. It was not like, if I had money for, let's say, 6 months, I might have still waited. I would have still done some of this stuff, right? But I feel the right thing to do whenever you have hard choices to make is make the hard choice and look at it like one silver bullet you have. So if you only had that one silver bullet, you have to get your timing not too late, and you have to like fire it deep in, right?
Amazing. Okay. So you spoke of diversifying beyond retail. We spoke last time of the use case for like a Unilever kind of FMCG where it would be for the Kirana loyalty. What about for oil and gas? Like this would be for the petrol pump point of sale. Like they would start collecting
So
data.
Shell is a large customer. Let me give you the use case for Shell, right? So that industry is transforming like crazy, right? So what's happening is everyone knows that in 10 years, no one will go to fuel up, right? And so obviously these are large billion-dollar corporations. Right? I mean, 5 of the top 10 Fortune 10 are oil and gas companies, right? Its energy is that large. So, so for a lot of these folks, the thing is, look, okay, so people will probably come for a recharge of, because you can recharge your car in 15 minutes in a Shell store, right? It'll take you 8 hours at home. The fast rechargers which recharge you in 80% in 15 minutes. I've seen them work. It's incredible, right? So it's still, because these guys can buy power at a very different price. It'll also be cheaper than recharging at home. Like energy is in their different, like, so their viewers look, so this consumer now instead of refueling has to come for a recharge. I still need that. I need to know that customer. I need to offer him premium slots. I need to get them to go to the coffee shop, buy convenience from me while it's getting recharged, do a car wash, do change of oil, all that stuff, right? So you have these, like Shell in Asia has 4,000 petrol stations. India has 400. It'll probably go to 4,000 over the next 5-10 years just in India. Right? But so they are trying to say, look, I need a new customer value prop for my customer. But that starts with first time, okay, let me build a database of customers, let me get them engaged first, let me get all of them into one app. Right? So Shell now, just in India, has 1 million+ users. Like 1 million+ was within 3 months of launch. There are many more people have downloaded that Shell Go Plus, or it's called Shell Asia now, the Shell Asia app.
And this app is for EV charging.
No, it's for fuel. So the idea is you start with fuel and then over 5-10 years as you switch over to EV. Like in Singapore now, we also have EV in the same thing. But you start with fuel. There's basically, we try to get you to go to the convenience store, buy coffees from us, do your car washes, look at Shell as not just your, like you said, right, petrol mom. Like try and get you out of that mindset into saying, look, so the idea is in that same 15 minutes, can I make the same margin from this place? Fuel is a very low margin business, right? 1%, 2% margin business. Can I make the same margin, if not the same revenue? Yeah.
This Shell app, why would people download it? Like they would get some discounts or some like cashbacks or something like that?
Yeah. So basically it's offers on non-fuel mostly. Because fuel doesn't allow you to do much. You accrue points, which you can then spend. There's fleet loyalty. I mean, all of this is publicly available.
In this app, the loyalty part is powered by you, basically.
Actually, the whole app is forward.
Okay. Like,
in fact, in a bunch of use cases like consumer goods, like this and all, we realize that these are not the typical store use cases where you're at the cash till, right? So these are slightly different. So we actually, the whole app is on us as well, right? So I think we're doing a bunch around a lot more stuff on that, right? So.
So you built the app as well. Like this was like a turnkey project.
Yeah. So we actually built the app on this because it's only a loyalty thing. But we also needed to do that because we were trying to accelerate this piece for ourselves. So I thought rather than have 5 other vendors do this yourself. And go
Right.
deep. Right.
It gives you more control on how quickly you can release new features or do more stuff with the data.
Correct.
Okay, amazing. Okay, so you are essentially a loyalty company. How does this differ from, say, like there's this payback, loyalty rewards? Is there a different business model for those companies versus Capillary? Or
Very different. Very different.
okay.
Look, we are a B2B play. Our customers own their data. We are a platform for them. Payback is where, you're the customer, right? And you're the product. Payback basically makes money by, getting you to spend more at other places and all that. So what happens, actually, I think the beauty of loyalty or customer data works when you're working with 70% of the customers of a brand or 80% of customers of a brand. What happens in all these coalitions, right? Like Payback, iWint, etc., is it contributes to 3% of your revenue as a retailer or as a brand. Where it's useless. मतलब, क्या ही analytics करोगे? What will you do on it? Then it just becomes this. We've had so many customers move from Payback to us over the last 15 years. Like, it's because beyond the point, it looks to the customer, yeah, I'm just paying these guys this point cost. And it's not like, while in our case, it's their own data, their own teams work on our data, and they are running their own campaigns. It's joint ownership in some senses, if not them owning the whole thing, right? So as a net result, I think, yeah, and also what's happened is over the last, especially 5-6 years, right? I think Amazon has done that great job of telling the world, "Ki, look, I mean, business is not trading; it is actually dealing with customers, right? So you at least need to have your own customer data, right? So what really has happened is earlier people would outsource all this stuff, Payback, some agency, some this, some that.
Payback is what is Payback? It's like a platform where you can plug in.
It's like a coalition loyalty program. It's a coalition program where the consumer has to say I'm a Payback member and I will but like actual truth is in most markets, less than 5% of customers actually will at the point of say, tell this guy, look, I'm part of Paybacks, right? So as a net result, the other way around, where the brand asks you, "Okay, look, we have a program, please be a part of it. We are not taking good care of you," is a lot more, the brand is taking control, right? So you get much higher participation rates as compared to, and then the analytics work, the campaigns work, the engagement works, the growth in their sales works. Right? It's 2-3% very hard. Won't work. Right?
Right. Okay. I want to understand about M&A and, I guess that's the sign of a mature organization when it starts doing M&A. What is the way in which you think about M&A? What are the pitfalls to avoid? What is the way to make a merger successful? Because you acquired a company in the US also, and probably you've done more post that also. So, tell me about that.
Yeah, no, we've done 4 acquisitions till now over the last, I'd say 10 years. I think 2 have worked. One is working now, but took us a lot of effort to make work, which is the Anyway Commerce product. One was a total failure, right? So, so quite some learnings there.
Total failure? Like the first one you did, or which one?
Yeah, the first one we did, right? It was a very small firm called Rua. This was in 2015. We had gone and bought a machine learning modeling firm.
Okay.
Small company, 2 PhDs.
Like acquihire, like you wanted the IP.
It was like an acquihire. We wanted the IP and the tech. But very cool tech. But we very soon realized that especially with a lot of this PhD data scientist type stuff, it's great tech, but it doesn't work outside the lab. After that happened, we actually built our own AI machine learning teams and engineered it properly and all that stuff. But yeah, sometimes So yes, my view on some of this, M&A is, I think the mistake we did with, let's say, Marjack was we bought for revenues. We shouldn't have. There were a couple of other companies that we were considering which were much smaller, uh, 3, 4 customers, but probably had a similar product, a more newer age product. Uh, Probably that was what, so I think M&A is to solve the 0 to 1 story. There was 0 to 1 on any new product or any new market is a 3, 4, 5 year journey. Right? So the first $1 million of revenue, the first 5 referenceable customers, the first 15 employees or 10 employees, I think is at least is what I feel is the right, as a product company, I think that's the right uh, M&A model. Having tried a few things, like doing something pre-revenue, like we did with so this AI machine learning thing. Very different because when the company starts working with and customers is when the real rubber hits the road moment arrives, right? Then it's not this lab and it's a great work in the lab. Then customers throw you out if you don't deliver for 3 months. No another patient, right? So, yes, I mean, for me, I think it's more that side, right? So I would look at it as 0 to 1 breakthroughs. But again, I also think the most important thing in M&A is culture. And we learned this the wrong way. Like, we were Capillary is a very, people look at me as an equal, almost like an equal, so we're not this hierarchical promoter-run company, right? And I think some of the companies which we bought were just so hierarchical, right? The office boy will go get the bag of the owner from the car and on the table type, and I didn't understand this at that point in time, but that essentially that essentially means the whole org is like that. So the org will not tell you, like here in Capillary, if there's a bad news, they'll walk into the room and tell me, right? So like it's an open culture, you come and tell. So I don't have to double guess, I don't have to second guess. So while in some of these places, I think the first learning for us in some of these places was people will not tell you like, boss, there's an issue. And we were expecting to tell you there's an issue, right? So I think cultural similarity and culture working is transparency, right? So radical transparency is something we've always built Capillary on. So no one has to the second years anyway. Right? But those were stuff which were very different from some of these things we did. So yeah, I think culture, do the 0 to 1 shortcut, I think is easier. Large companies,
Essentially,
200
you're saying
people.
buy for the right reason, and the right reason is to do your 0 to 1 for a new.
Yeah, 0 to 1 for a new product or a new geography.
New geography. And second is a product market fit proof should be there. Like it should be proven that the product market fit is there. And third is
5 customers, about $1 million of revenue, and the same use case for those customers. 5 customers, same use case for those customers, and first 10, 15 employees who have stuck around and are culturally similar to you, I think is very, very important.
okay. How do you integrate? Do you let them run their own ship, or like how does that happen?
Yeah, the other thing I should say is you should have a very strong burnout model. A very strong burnout model, right?
What's
It basically
what,
burnout model. Burnout.
okay. What does that mean?
Burnout is that you have significant amounts to be paid out post the acquisition.
Okay. Don't pay everything.
Don't pay everything upfront. Align, because more than anything else, it just aligns a hard conversation of saying, what do you want post the acquisition from that firm? And it aligns the founders also of the other firm, right? That this is what we are signing up for. So it's not like a lot of times when someone wants to sell a firm, they are in this mode of, yeah, I've run this for 10 years, I'm tired. Right? So, or you're, that you think, hey, I have paid lower salaries for many years. Now this private equity funded company is coming in. Now maybe good salaries for everyone. And as you start, as you buy and you do that, after 2 months, then as the buying partner, you're like, oh God, like I did think ye hoga, I didn't think ye hoga, I didn't think ye hoga, right? So while on the other hand, put it in saying, look, boss, this is what I want from you. And this is how you deliver on that promise. So I think some of that is very, very key, especially for the management team, if not the shareholders of that company. Shareholders of that company don't have any more influence, right? So you should probably let them take the money and move. But yeah.
The operator founder should have skin in the game and be aligned with what the goals you want to achieve through that acquisition.
Correct.
Right. Okay, fascinating. So, you know, why IPO? Like, are you? I mean, what is the reason to choose to do an IPO in this kind of a market? And
So it was so we decided to do we start the process in April, May, June of 2021, right? So almost 18 months ago. It's a long process, and then whatever, so hence we are where we are in terms of the process. So I think two reasons, Shai. So one was, look, having this, I mean, we got close. We again ended FY 21, Jan from March 21 profitably, right? After all this, after even getting salaries back to normal and all that stuff. Again ended it with the 10% or 8-9% profitability. I don't remember the exact number now, but reasonably profitable, right? So, and so within my view in the world was, that I was starting to believe that the right way to build companies is, like profitably mid-30s growth, 10% EBIT, 5, 7, 10% EBIT. Keep increasing EBITs, get it to the, like that beauty that Infi did, right? Which was for 15 years, they compounded at 30% with a 20% EBITDA, the 25% EBITDA, the 27% EBITDA, right? So I thought, somewhere I fell into the camp of saying, this is the right way to build a long-term arc, right? It's not, it's not growth at all costs, which we had tried earlier, which we had, so, and this was April of 20, and, was, so before, I think at that point in time in India, you had a couple of companies, Affle, Route, which were in that 200 crores-ish type revenue bucket, which went public. The stock had done well. Not pure tech, like one is an ad tech, one is a CPaaS provider types. But there was some way of saying, look, like the threshold for at least people who are doing semi-tech, I would not call CPaaS as tech, right? So, is not the, 3,000 crores as a commodity business or as an apparel business, 1,500 crores, but is lower because people understand that margins are higher. It's a different business, right? So, so that was one thing. The second was, especially last year, was very glaring, right? It was, the market was just at, like I'm going to these VC meetings or private equity meetings, and people reached out. They're saying, look, we're profitable. And it was almost like people didn't want to look below the line.
yeah, what are you growing at? Like,
Right? And I think having gone through that whole thing in my head, I was sure, look, the company I want to build, and I think what we can build as a good company over the next many years is probably this Infi line, right? 35% growth, get to 20% margins, like compound. Build a good company, build a nice company, right? And anyway, look, I've always had this philosophy in life, Akshay, that beyond the first 50 crores of money is not going to make a big change in anyone's life, right? So we kind of made all that. Most of the employees have got reasonable exit. So I think there's not this pressure to say, hey, exit in 2 years, exit in 3 years. So we all spend the long term view. And that was one big thing. I felt that uh, 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 our growth, our 5% additional margins every year type story probably resonated better with public market investors than with private private guys, right? So that was, I think, the biggest reason for doing it. And thankfully, the investors were very supportive. You know, they said, "Look, whatever you want."
But are you listing because you want to raise more funds, or are you listing for the benefit of being a listed company, having equity as a currency and other such benefits?
See, I do think we do more M&A going forward. So definitely equity matters in that sense. We're also, in some senses, I think it's also value creation for employees. I do think compounding at 30% is like over 10 years is incredible, right? I mean, in fact, we'd seen the Infi story, right? Infi was, I think, 700-800 crores in revenues in 2000. 700-800 crores. Like, and I'm not joking. Right? So I think they were 100 crores of revenues or something like that in 1992. And it's all been this very same 30%, 30%, 30%, 25% margin, 30% growth, 35% growth type for many years, right? So I do believe in that. Look, given people have worked so hard for like 10, 12 years here, why not just compound at that rate with, your future in your hands, right? Uh, and look, the fact is, Akshay, this is where even if I go and scream and say there's a discount, please take, no one will take. It's large enterprises. They have to go through their evolve. Risk is more important for them than discounts.
Yeah,
Right. So
yeah. You can't spend to grow. Like, I mean, if you don't
I
need,
think the incremental cost of I would say forced growth is 10x higher than like normal growth, what the market can support.
okay. What do you want to use these funds for? What you'll raise in the IPO?
Like, when we bought this US company, it was in the middle of COVID, right? So we were profitable, they were profitable. So I actually went the typical leverage buyout way, which is we raise only $2 of equity, $8 of debt, right? So we have some debt to pay back there. Uh, Obviously, as a company, we continue to build more products in the space. Some of that, but yeah, mostly I would say, for paying debt or for, long-term capex type stuff. So
So we're about 4 months away from end of current financial year. What do you estimate as the revenue for this financial year? Like ballpark?
can't say that. Can't say that.
Okay.
Shouldn't. But we decent growth, better growth than last year. Let's put it that way.
And what was last year?
That number is public. So we grew at 26% last year. Again, we lost one quarter to COVID, all that stuff, right? So we grew 26% last year with a break-even. This year we'll grow faster with better profitability.
So 26% over 32 million. So something like a 40 million.
No, with 32 we went down. Our numbers are actually all in the public domain.
Okay.
So we went down from, I think 220 something crores to 190s, and then we went back to like 245-ish, 247-ish.
Okay.
I mean, I told you, right, we had one year of degrowth in COVID.
Yeah. Right. So I want to go a bit deeper into your people management and culture part of Capillary. One thing is that I have seen a lot of people from Capillary go on to become founders and scale their business as well. So there must be something in the culture which teaches them entrepreneurship. And then the second thing is you told me that 1/3 of your first 150 employees are still with you 10 years down the line. Help me understand how you build this kind of culture.
I think I told you, right, like I was in ITC for a couple of years and we had this, my boss there was, my super boss actually, not my direct boss, but this guy called Sanjeev Rangas. Great guy. And he had this, very people first view of the world. He was like, you have the right people, stuff will happen, right? So unlike the other way around, which most people are like, so I think our culture is a little bit like that. Akshay. So we always had this trust by default culture. So get the right people, give them like large amounts of responsibility, uh, and don't be behind their back, right? Be very accepting of, uh, like, it's okay to make a mistake, as long as you learn from it type. So, and that really, I think, has helped us with the culture for many, many years. People have stuck around for, it's a very transparent culture. It's, we also, we also brought in a bunch of stuff from, like in Kharagpur, we used to have a brotherhood fund in the hall, the boys hostel, so it was called the brotherhood fund. Basically, a small amount from your mess bill would be deducted and kept aside. And at the end of, if any students, there was a loss in the family or they really needed money for something, you would get that from the brotherhood fund, right? So, and we've had that in Capillary for many years now, right? 1% of salary is deducted. And then as a community, if someone needs something, you like, especially health issues, and you do have that, right? You do have that. And I mean, you obviously have insurance and stuff, but insurance doesn't cover everything, right? So, like COVID was a great time, right? So COVID wave two, uh, when it hit us, almost 50 employees from the call center. We had employees in like, I don't know, 100 cities, right? By then people had gone to their homes and all that stuff. And there was this call center we had set up to like find beds for people. Like, so for one of our employees, we actually had to fly that individual down from, like airlift him from Patna to Hyderabad. Find, call up people, get him into an Apollo. I mean, the family at that point actually paid nothing, right? So, the whole group together, we raised some 2.5, 3 crores for that employee so that he could get a lung transplant if it was required, right? So, luckily for us, through COVID, we actually didn't lose any employee. I thought that was, we had people moved in ambulances from over 300 kilometers, airlifted people. It was one mad operation, right? It was one mad, it was just incredible. I thought the way people responded to it was, I always say that as Capillary, we've been more like a community than a company, and I think that's really helped over the years. Then we've also taken care of the folks, like startups are not easy, right? I mean, startups are very hard. Slow. I think around the 5th year or 6th year of operation, we realized that people tend to burn out. So we have this thing in the firm where every 4 years you get 1 month fully paid off. It's like a sabbatical. So you don't do, I mean, we have some restrictions. You can't go get married. So it's really to go travel, learn something, stay at home, stuff like that. It's okay, but yeah. So that's what this whole Vipassana thing is about. We have a one of the core beliefs of the company is to build a conscious workplace. Conscious workplace is essentially saying, look, unfortunately, the way most of us look at life is title and salary, right? But life is a lot beyond that, right? I mean, beautiful things about life are beyond title and salary, right? So we do these 2-day retreats for employees where we, it's like a 2 days of meditation and yoga, just bunch stuff like that. We had a running club for many years in the company, so a lot of us did our first half marathon, all that stuff together. We all hit Kapan on Saturday morning, 25 of us. So that, yeah, I think that's helped the culture, that's kept the culture alive.
It's amazing how you built that second family kind of a culture, and like that brotherhood fund of getting people empowering people to care for each other. I mean, now it's not just an individual initiative, but you have access to a fund which you can use to help a coworker who may need. I mean,
Yep. So I think so that the team has always been good, right? So multiple startups. What's also helped is, as I'm an angel in all of these, as I put money, people around me put money in.
okay.
So in fact, I think almost most of the startups that have come out of Capillary within the first 3 months raise a couple of million.
Who are some of the startups in the capillary mafia, if I can use that term?
There's Gameberry, which has done very well. There's MPL. MPL is, Shub was our second employee. It's very, very early. We've had, you met a few of them, Nectar, which is Abhijit's thing, Ankur, Bamboo Box, we've Faces, which is actually Pravanjan, who's our CTO. He started up. Again, done fairly well. I think that there's your post, which is again a capillary. There's guaranteed. There's a bunch of them. I think there's a list of about 50, 55 now. But
wow, amazing. Okay. So we need to make this term viral now, capillary mafia. 50 is a fairly big size. So
I think there've been enough deaths as well. We've had people who started up, come back and joined us again. So it's been a very open culture in that sense. So that you want to start up, it doesn't work out. I've told people actually this, that you really want to start up, you're worried about something, go come back after a few years, we're done.
Yeah. Amazing. Quick update for listeners of this episode. We are now recording a year after we originally recorded, with some additional updates and a couple of unanswered questions. Let me start by, I had asked you about the product and you had told me way back in 2010 what the product looked like, how it captured data, generated an offer. What is the product today?
Right. So, we power loyalty programs for customers, right? So, um, so basically, it's the whole membership management, it's signing up customers across channels, then a single view of that customer across whether you're online, offline, wherever. If you're subscribed to a program, then managing the subscriptions. In typical airline hotel type use cases, it's things like, the points and miles and all of that. And then we also have a pretty strong engagement product, which is once you're part of a program, re-engaging with you, getting you back, all kinds of reminders if your points are expiring, if your membership is coming for a renewal, things like that. Right? So that's the whole gamut of it, right? So think of it as end-to-end managing a customer's life cycle with a brand, right?
Is it on autopilot or like the reminders, the communication which goes, is it like set and forget or?
Yeah, it's all automated. You can go change, of course. Like a bunch of stuff is automated, right? So in fact, we have a bunch of stuff which is, we use a bunch of AI in the tool as well. So the tool would prompt the marketing leader or the CRM manager or whoever that, these customers haven't come back, so a lot of even the thinking is, in a sense, reasonably automated into the tool now, right? So, yeah. While we stay on the product, I think, so in the space, in the loyalty management space, we are now globally the best regarded product. So there's an analyst called Forrester. Forrester is known on the CMO and the marketing side. And we're the highest rated product on Forrester globally now, right? So, and we feature on a bunch of other waves, even on the engagement one, we feature there. I think we're in the top 5, we're not the number 1 there, but so I think the product has come a long way, so.
Why not go full stack and also offer point of sales software like billing? Because they're so related. Why work with other billing softwares if you have a customer upsell billing software also?
I think that's a massive red ocean, right? So, and
What do you mean by red ocean?
yeah, so like it's an extremely fragmented space, too many competitors. If you get into that space, we don't compete in that space today. Um, Actually, so what we felt was that look, replacing a point of sale system, right, is akin to an open heart surgery.
Okay.
And what we felt was it's better to integrate with those folks rather than compete with them. And like you have asked, like there's been this constant question we've got many times from from customers, from investors, from everyone saying you should build your own POS. You're doing 50% of the work. And our answer to it has always been that look, we don't want to compete in that space. It's also a different buyer. Like our products are bought by a CMO, while the POS is typically bought by the CIO. And it's a different space to be in, and it's also a very extremely customized, highly fragmented space, right? So we haven't. I don't think we'll ever get into the POS space. We'll stay in the loyalty and customer engagement and marketing type space. We'll never get into the transaction only space, which is what a POS is.
Okay. So you're saying that loyalty, the product works across industries, be it airlines, be it hotels, be it retail. Whereas for POS, you'll actually need to maybe acquire a company in each of these. You need to acquire a company which has the hotel POS and acquire a company which has a retail POS and so on. So like it's not worth amount of effort you'll need to put in to build it up across segments.
And for something like us to work, we need to be integrated into the POS, right? So if we were to go and build a POS ourselves, why will the large POS folks continue to give us love, right?
Yeah.
Today, it's just that thing of saying, look, it's not a space where we want to play in, and it's an extremely fragmented space. So like if you look at retail itself, I don't think any retail POS player has more than a 5% market share.
Okay.
Right. So it's an extremely fragmented space. So if you want to like cobble up that space, it'll be like 100 acquisitions, not one.
Wow. Okay.
So
What's
as compared to let's say loyalty management, where it's if you look at the Forrester wave, it's 14 large players globally. So it's a fairly it's okay. It's still a red ocean, but it's not like deep red, right? So there are like if you're good in technology, then there are places where you could really just those areas are not red ocean. I think good tech is still blue ocean in the space. That's not true with the POS space as much.
okay? Yeah. What's what share does Capillary have in the loyalty space? Like very rough estimate.
Yeah, in the Asia markets, like India, we'll have a 30% plus. In the rest of Asia, we'll probably have 10-12%. US, Europe, we've just entered, right? I mean, this is our year. Like we are a Series A funded company in the US, right? So it's like 2.5 years. Our first customer was signed up in March of 2021. So we less than 1% in market share. And as you would guess, US, Europe is like 75% of the addressable market. So yeah. So Asia, I think, is more like I'd say 10 to 30% market share, while US, Europe, we are like just knocking on the doors right now.
So you said that like replacing a POS is very, very hard, like an open heart surgery. Replacing a loyalty program, is it equally hard? What kind of resistance is there from a customer to replace a loyalty program they are already using?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, actually. So Forrester did some, they published a bunch of research that the average customer stays with the loyalty provider for 11 years.
Fairly sticky.
I mean,
Yeah.
very sticky, right? So, which is where I think even our strategy has been a little bit on saying, so people do come up with RFPs every 7, 10, 11 years, right? So it's a very sticky buy. Like, but it's like, the technology, especially in the West, is like loyalty programs have been around forever in the West, right? So those tech stacks are, I would say, 20 years old, 25 years old tech stacks, right? So, so our strategy in the US has been, while Asia has been only organic, we've grown through winning new customers and stuff. The US and Europe, we've kind of said 50% of our growth will come organically. The other 50 we'll actually buy, right? So we do, in fact, in the last 6-7 months, we've done a couple of acquisitions now. We've like we've done 3 acquisitions in the last 2 years in US and Europe now. And the idea there is you buy a book of business, you then are easily able to move those customers to your tech platform rather than wait for those customers to come up with an RFP and then, do a whole new thing. Right. So, and that's working well, because what we do is we convert the existing software that the customer is using, the company we bought, into like a middleware. So that helps as the integration platform in some senses. So the customer then gets access to a much better tech platform. You get access to much bigger, larger customers. So, that's our way of dealing with this very large sales cycles and very sticky business that loyalty is.
Okay, amazing. Are acquisitions, are they a bet you take, or is it like a well-oiled strategy? You know that if I spend X dollars on an acquisition, it'll lead to Y dollars of value creation. It's fairly predictable. And, what is it like? Because acquisitions can be very risky. Companies have lost a lot of value due to wrong acquisitions and so on and so forth. So I want to
including
understand.
us. I think we did a bunch of acquisitions in that 2015-16 space where those didn't work out for us, right? So, so I think lots of learnings there. We wasted at least 30% of the equity of the company doing acquisitions, which didn't work out, right? So, so we have made our fair share of mistakes there. I think my learning there, Akshay, is a little bit of, I think the biggest risk on acquisitions usually ends up being product. So if you're buying a new product, it ends up being, whether it will work, whether it's good enough, whether it's feature rich, whether it's the best product in the market, all those end up being very large risks, right? And hence our thesis has been to say, look, I think we have the best product in the loyalty space. So let's buy other companies in the space and add to revenue, right? So you're actually hence eliminating a lot of the risk, right? You're eliminating a lot of the product risk. You're anyway the best product in the space. That's not what we are saying. That's what a Forrester is saying. That's what a bunch of these large consulting firms are saying. So when you then go to a customer and say, look, hey, we'll upgrade you free to what's the best product in the space, a lot of them then just are happy to move, right? So I think we've somewhere got to a space now where we know that we're buying subscale competitors of ours. We know that we're buying companies which are not great on technology themselves. And hence we're able to make the math work very well. I think the thing with acquisitions is if you're buying with like 10% margin of error, God bless you, you're not going to get too far. If you're buying with like a 50-60% margin for error, things will not work out in an acquisition, right? There'll be some pieces that will definitely not work out. If your margin for error is like 50, 60, 70%, then what do I mean by 50, 60, 70%? If you're trading at 6, 7, 10 times revenue multiple and you're buying at 1 to 2 times revenue multiple, then you have massive margin for error, right? And you will get at least 20% of your thesis wrong on every acquisition. While if you're buying something at like, you're trading at 10 times revenue and you buy something at 9, which is kind of what we used to do in 2015, 16, then God bless you, right? Then you're definitely going to have like a rough time.
Okay, phenomenal. Can you explain this margin for error with some example using numbers and all? I just want to get a little more clarity on this.
We've generally traded at 10 times revenue, right? Like whenever we raised money as a business, we've kind of raised in the ballparks of like the 10 times ARR or 10 times last 12 months or next 12 months or something like that, right? So, and so when we did a bunch of acquisitions in 2015, 16, we went and bought companies at like 8 to 9 times, right? So it still looked like you were buying at like a 10-15% discount, which is kind of the margin for error in some senses, right? So what I'm meaning by that is after the acquisition, you realize that 20% of customers churned or that the technology was not good. You have to invest, X million dollars to like get it to a good place. Your margin for error is all gone, right? While what we are doing now is essentially we're saying, look, we have the best product in the space. So I'm buying a book of business, right? And what are the companies we're buying? We're buying companies where we know that, and they also know that if they have to build a tech platform like Capillary, it'll cost them like tens of millions of dollars, right? And if you're a $10 million revenue company or a $20 million revenue company, investing $10 million to build a tech platform is not going to work for you, right? So the founders there or the management there already knows that, look, I think we are going to be disrupted at just a matter of time. And so they are happy selling at like, 5 times EBITDA or, 1 times revenue or 2 times revenue, because they know that if you look at a 5-year view or a 10-year view, most of their customers are going to move out if they don't make that big tech investment. And making that big tech investment will mean, it's a big risk, right? Even after you make it, you don't know if you will really end up, being competitive enough and things like that. So the more recent acquisitions we've done have been more in the, companies that are not growing very fast, 1 to 2x revenues, that kind of space, right? So it then gives you a lot of margin for like error, and acquisitions, I think, are all about the margin for errors.
Amazing. So you would buy like a 10 million ARR company for maximum 20 million. But that 10 million ARR getting added to your ARR would increase your value by 100 million, because that's what you've been historically raising funds.
Probably, let's say in a year, right? You will have to move
In a
those
year.
customers to your platform. The companies you're buying will also be at lower gross margin. You'll be buying companies at like 50% gross margin while you operate at 75. Now, that movement from that 50 to 75 is going to happen by you moving tech platforms, right? Once you move to tech platforms, then we tend to have a average upsell. Like if I have $100 book of business, that grows to $120 on the existing customers every year, right? So our net retention rate is 120. Now, a lot of these companies you're buying are probably going to have a 0%, we just break even, 100% retention rate. So some of those changes happen when you move the tech platform, right? So it's going to take you that effort for an year and a half. But at the end of an year and a half, you know that this will be a 20% free cash business with, and we've proven that now with a few customers, that like the first set of acquisitions we did, the second company we bought is again on that same track. But essentially, you're able to show that you're able to migrate customers, you're able to get those customers to buy more from you the next year. Stickiness is far higher. Customer NPS is at least 20-30 points higher than what it was on the old platform, right? So a bunch of very tangible things which you're able to then move, which then makes that 2 times revenue multiple or 1 times revenue multiple like a 9 or 10 times revenue multiple.
So amazing. What's your ARR now?
You planted that well, but I can't answer that. Let's say we'll get close to 100 in the next 12 months.
Amazing. So your next round will be a unicorn round.
I hope we don't need to raise the next round. The business is profitable.
You would do a pre-IPO round? Typically, companies do a pre-IPO fundraise before the actual IPO.
We raised $40 million in March of this year, right? When we, so the option we had was continuing on the IPO path where we had an approval from SEBI and all that. But the markets were in the dumps in March. They're brilliantly doing well now. But the good thing was, it's kind of the funding winter, we were able to raise like a $40 million round. So, the business has been doing well. It's kind of at a break even for the last couple of years. We've been growing like 30-35% organically. We have a very good inorganic thesis of buying other companies now. So we were able to raise. So with that, I don't think we need to raise more primary as such. as a business. Of course, we have investors, so we have the responsibility of getting them an exit. So they might be secondaries. You will probably the next 18 months want to go out, when you're at that 100 million type revenue run rate, when you're at, 10 million of free cash you're getting generated in the business. I think like a 10% free cash, 30% organic growth is a all-weather public company, right? While what happened last year, or probably a little bit of what's happening this year also, is a little bit more um, great weather companies, right? Which is the markets are doing very well, you do very well. Otherwise, you get slapped around like quite badly.
Do you regret not doing the IPO? Like
I'm
maybe
actually very grateful we didn't go public. I'm actually
Okay.
very grateful we didn't go public. Because if it had happened, we would have gone, right? I mean, who would not? But in all the conversations, we had a lot of love in terms of meetings. So we had 50 investor meetings, all kinds of folks, right? Like the largest funds to mid-sized funds to, market makers, etc. So there's definitely interest in SaaS in the India markets. That was proven very clearly. But one thing we realized was that, unlike the US where people are okay with loss-making companies and all that, I think in India, folks want to have like 8-10% free cash, right? And we were at a break even. I mean, our numbers are public and the DRHP and all. We were at a break even for a few years, but probably a year or two to get to that 10% free cash on a sustainable basis without impacting growth, right? I mean, you also want to grow at this around the 30s and a 10% free cash organically. And then you do whatever you do inorganically, right? If you're able to add another 20-25% growth or 10-15% growth through inorganic, I think that's the right mix that we kind of want to get to.
Okay.
And that probably another 18 months before we go out again.
What's your stake? What percentage is?
It frankly doesn't, my view on money action has been that, beyond the first 50 crores in life, it doesn't practically, and 50 also is with a great margin of error, right? Money doesn't change your quality of life.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just a
So
number.
it's just a number, right? And thankfully, at least very early in life, I realized that there are many better things to change in life than money, right? So let's say that my equity in Capillary is worth more than 50 crores. So anything more beyond that is not really going to change like quality of life for me. Although Capillary for me is not only about money, right? I think it's about building a great company. It's about culture. It's about building the best product in the space globally, building a market leader globally. I think some of those money can be an outcome, but so what's my value and what's my worth in terms of Capillary more than what I need? I think is the right answer to it.
I'm guessing it would be like a single digit percentage at this stage, which is typically, when companies are
Correct.
nearing IPO. And,
Yeah.
a lot of founders of early stage companies have this, dilemma of should I dilute? Do I really want to be just a 5% owner business, which I'm building? And, so what's the way to think about that?
I think I would say that ownership is not just about how much you own in the company, right? Like other than the financial ownership, if the company is doing well, the investors don't get all the laurels, right? I mean, you get all the thing. If you built a great company, the satisfaction for that sits with you. I mean, if you're having companies coming out of your company, which is if you're as Capillary, we've been very lucky to get a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of us, right? So all that satisfaction sits with you. So just saying, so the way I would look at it is, okay, I have single digit financial ownership in the company, which is more money than I ever need in life. Right. But everything else, like, I think I have reasonable ownership, right? So, unfortunately, and look, I come from 2008, right? When building a company was not about money. So I'm not from that mold of, I don't connect with this whole unicorn valuation. I don't connect with this whole, I'd much rather tell an investor, don't invest at a much higher valuation in me. Like, let's come in at a reasonable place, so that you make money, we make money, everyone makes money, then try and maximize this, multiple or whatever. Right. So,
Okay. One last question I want to ask you. What's like an M&A success playbook? When you acquire a business, do you, for example, keep the existing leadership? Do you send in someone from Capillary to make the change happen? What are like some of those steps which you've learned? If these steps we do it, then it's likely to be a successful person.
I think every acquisition is different, Akshay. And what we realized is that, like, we diligence a lot more before than after. Right. So, and the thesis has been very different. Right. So the first acquisition we did, Persuade, which was in 2021, September 2021, that is our US business today. Right. So we rebranded it as Capillary, and so it was the same team that ran for at least the first 18 months. Right. So the second acquisition we did, however, was slightly different in the sense that they were slightly loss making. So we had to turn it profitable. We had to take some cuts on day one to get it to that place. Now, this team also had a lot of great talent, right? The second acquisition we did, Riley and Partners. So we actually ended up like promoting the head of HR there as our global head of HR. Our global head of consulting is also from Riley now. So I think it's very like, I hear a lot of people who we've spoken to saying, fire the entire leadership on the first day, plant your people in. Like, I don't think, I think these are very, I would say these are very specific to each company decisions, right? So if you have great talent, you'd be stupid to fire them, right? Now have we let go? Have we asked a few of those leaders to leave on day zero to get it to profitability? Yes. Like, they had a very large finance team, which we didn't see any need for. So, because we anyway have a good finance team and whatever, right? So we asked that CFO to leave, of the company we were acquiring. But again, I'm saying it's not like one thing fits all, right?
Formula. Yeah. You can't.
It's never that way. And should you move your people into those companies? Definitely yes, because it then gets to a unified culture. What you don't want to do is build a Frankenstein, right? That there are, you have 20 acquisitions or 10 acquisitions, and each of those has their own culture and they run very differently and all that. So we do believe that integrating on day one is like critical, but integrating on day one doesn't mean firing the entire leadership team or none of that stuff. Right? Integrating on day one is a very thoughtful, who do you keep? Who do you not keep? What are gaps that you have that you fill? So there's a lot of thinking that goes on into, and each of our acquisitions have, hence margin for error is similar, but what you do in terms of people is extremely custom to each acquisition.
And that brings us to the end of this conversation. I want to ask you for a favor now. Did you like listening to this show? I'd love to hear your feedback about it. Do you have your own startup ideas? I'd love to hear them. Do you have questions for any of the guests that you heard about in this show? I'd love to get your questions and pass them on to the guests. Write to me at ad@thepodium.in. That's ad@thepodium.in.